What's up, everybody? We are back today to talk about something that came up actually during our Sunday Night Live feed the other night, and it was a question I didn't get to, but it's a question I've been asked a lot, and I think it's worth making like a full tilt video. Before I get into that, I want to talk about how
what's going on back there?
The state of my room, even behind me, it bothers me so much to see this on here, how much of a mess it is. But on the other hand, I just think it's such a real indication of I have a giant stack of, here's one of the many stacks of papers I have on my desk. I have other papers here. There's hand sanitizer bottles all over the place. There's just stuff everywhere.
You look like a hoarder.
But that is the real life of a teacher sometimes, that it's not, Pinterest perfect, but it's real life. And then I got to get all this cleaned up before I go home because I don't want to walk in tomorrow to this, but that's a whole nother conversation. Here's what I want to talk about today. The question I received was, what do you do when you're kidding around with kids in class, when something funny happens, when there's this sort of explosive or fun moment that happens, and then how do you get kids to go back to doing work or settle back down after that happens?
Settle down, children.
Sometimes kids won't settle back down. So what do we do with that? So I have a few ideas on how I think you can pivot from this moment. It takes a little bit of work, but so does everything. So here are my few suggestions on how to get your class back after something explosive or fun or crazy happens in class. So the first thing to keep in mind here is that school is boring. Right? Largely, school is extremely boring. So having a moment that is funny or silly or crazy that happens in class is okay. Now, maybe that's something that was done by design. I've had these moments where the journal entry was what's a song people would be surprised that you know? And then we played those.
What is this song?
We've had dance parties at the end of different books that we've read. And
morning dance party.
then there are moments like today in class when a child tried to walk over the desks, fell flat on his back. And I mean, if it was me, I would have never gotten up again. But it was a moment that happened or that was unexpected. Everyone lost it. And so what do you do with those? I think one is to just let it ring out. Let it run its course. It's only going to take a few seconds. And it only feels like a long time because most educators are afraid that an administrator is going to walk in, that some other teacher is going to walk in, someone's going to wonder what the craziness is in the class right now. I wouldn't worry about that because it doesn't actually happen as long as we think it's going to. It's just like when you ask a question of the class and you ask someone to answer something and you're waiting for an answer and those 2 seconds feel like they're 20 or 30 seconds when really it's just 2 seconds. Just let it rain out. Make sure the kid's okay, let the dance party happen, dial down the music, and then I think you just roll right back into class. Now, sometimes that's easier than others, and I'll speak to that in a moment. It's important to remember this. School should be fun. That those moments of laughing, of dancing together, of silliness happening in the classroom, that is building culture. It is building community. It is creating a space and a place that kids want to be in. So it's okay to let it happen. If an administrator does walk in, just let them know, we're good. Everything's all good in here. I can fill you in later about what happened, but we're all good. Every once in a while, someone will pop in, they start yelling at the students in the room. It's usually someone that's new. They'll start yelling at my students because we're doing something. I let that happen. When they leave, I tell my students they did nothing wrong. That's all on me. This is my class. I'm running things in here, and I'll speak to them later. And then I always follow up with that administrator or with that teacher later and let them know, hey, look, you came in today and you got the wrong impression. This is what we were doing. We were building community culture. We were having a little bit of fun and excitement in the classroom. I realized it got too loud. I'll be mindful of that going forward, but know that it was a planned process. Or somebody fell over a desk. That's what kids do. They lose it when someone falls over a desk or trips down the aisle or whatever. At this point, everyone knows if loud noises are coming from Reynolds' class, it's probably either by design or he doesn't need our help. So they'll leave you alone next time anyway. So what do we do if the class won't jump back into class? How do we handle those moments? I'll walk you through a couple of different ideas, but the thing that is more important than anything that I'm saying as to how to do this is why I'm doing this. Students are told speak when spoken to and then are never spoken to. So I think engaging children in a real conversation, no matter what age they are, in how we're behaving and why that's important. What it's doing is inviting kids into the conversation. And whenever we can have that, right, that's gonna stop actual learning and with regards to like, you can't read the book, you're not reading the play, you're not doing the math problem, yes. But what it's going to do is strengthen the core of our class so that going forward, we're not going to have these issues and we can bounce back and forth from these different moments of emotion. So we can go from fun to serious to silly to back to work, and we can move through that more fluidly. So the first conversation I would have with students is, why is having fun or laughing important? Right, so like looking this up and giving them maybe some of the science, maybe some of the data, having a conversation about how, look, I recognize that school is really boring.
It sure is.
How can we liven this up? Sometimes we liven it up by laughing, and I love being with you guys, and I love being silly, and this is part of my personality maybe, or it's part of our class culture. Like we love being together, and what do people do when they're together? They laugh and they enjoy one another's company. However, why is learning important, right? And why is switching back to learning important? Because we are here because of you. We are here because we want to empower you to be successful in anything you want to do in life. And that means you need to be able to balance back and forth. You need to be able to go from moment to moment. The idea here is you are engaging students in a conversation that is real, that is authentic. You're identifying the fact that laughter and fun is important in class, but you're also identifying the fact that learning is important in class. Then I think you come up with a plan together as to how we can go from one to the other. So look, gang, I love having these conversations with you. I love that we have these moments that are off script and that we get to do funny stuff, or if silly things happen, or there's an instant dance party somewhere. However, and there's the bell. However, how are we pivoting when we come back? How are we going to switch from one to the other? I need ideas because I don't want to just cancel fun. I want to enjoy it and include it in our classroom. How do we do that? So that opens up an opportunity for you to also share your ideas as to how this is going to go down. Let's say you come up with a plan together, or you come up with a plan on your own, but there's a handful of kids that just aren't doing it. They just won't comply. They just won't settle back down. They won't get it together. They're the kids that sort of like the handful of students that are still acting out and you can't get anything done then in class. You have a couple of choices. One, I think you batch kids. So you call kids out individually. You ask that certain number of kids that are doing a really great job, that are doing a great job of pivoting, and you ask them to stay after class. And what you talk to them about is this. Those students need to know that what they're doing is great, that what they're doing is the right thing, and to just touch base with them, because typically, a lot of teachers will just talk to the kids that were doing the wrong thing. But you want to individually hold kids back, or as a small group, hold them back and say, hey, look, I just want you all to know that you did a really great job. I asked everyone to pivot back and you really listened. You really paid attention and you really gave it your best. And I appreciate that, and I appreciate you. Thank you so much for doing that. Just that little bit reminds that kid that you saw them, that you paid attention to what they were doing. And that's helpful to students, because now that they've been acknowledged, they're far more apt to do that behavior again, or show that behavior again the next time things get crazy. Now, what do you do with the kids that aren't behaving? You hold them back as well. You can do it either as a small group or as individuals, and you say, look, we're getting it twisted here. What I need is for you to pivot in this particular way, or we made this particular agreement based on our conversation we had before. And if you're not gonna do that, it's gonna mess things up in class. I don't think you wanna mess things up in class. I'm trying to have the best class of the day. So what can we do to help you move forward, to help you get back on track? Right there, what you're doing again is you're not dictating to kids what they need to be or not need to be doing. What you're doing is you are including them in a conversation and saying, I'm noticing this, I'm identifying this behavior. How can I help you to do better in class? So a kid doesn't feel put on the spot. They don't feel blamed. There's no finger pointing going on. It's, this is what I'm noticing. This is what I need. How can we bridge the gap together? I'm asking you. That reply from students should be noted and then incorporated into however you're going to come up with whatever that plan is going to be next. Now, what if kids still don't behave after you've had this conversation as a whole, after you've had the conversations with individuals on both sides? What do you do then? What you don't want to do is punish the whole class, right? And what I mean by that is I don't believe in whole class detention. There's no way that the whole class was ever doing a thing, right? There's no way. Sometimes just because someone's laughing is because we don't have things under control.
Don't laugh, it ain't funny.
So when we don't have things under control, other kids are gonna laugh that other kids are doing funny stuff. And that's okay. That has nothing to do with you. They're laughing at them. They're not laughing at you. So don't take it personally. However, there are times that it feels like the majority of the class doesn't have it under control. They can't move back from the fun moment. In those times, I think it's okay to let the class know that, look, we are a community and we operate as a community. That if too many people can't get back on track, then we can't have those moments for now. It's not a forever thing. Then I usually pour gasoline on the classes that like their fire is roaring and they can go back and forth and it's great. And the other classes, I kind of draw back and let them know that we're not ready for this right now. That yes, you did hear that I did this with another class, or I know you walked by earlier and heard something going on. But for this class, I feel like for right now, we can't really do that. And so you're not punishing them. You're not saying you guys can't handle it. We're not even gonna do this anymore. We're not even gonna have fun anymore if you can't handle it. You're calmly talking to them. This is the behavior that I'm noticing. And then this is how we're going to react to that behavior to help you be successful. The only point of school is to help students be successful. And that's what kids need to know. It's not because you upset me. It's not because y'all don't know how to act. It's not because, you can't handle yourself. You're not pointing fingers and casting blame. What you're doing is holding a mirror up to behavior and saying, this behavior does not help you to be successful. Here's what we're gonna do about that. And then test the water sometimes. When you feel like you're having a good day and you wanna do something fun or silly or spontaneous, by all means, try it and see what happens. And then let the kids know immediately after, all right, that actually went really well. Bro, what is happening right now?
What is that sound?
There's a lot of craziness after school. Anyway, kind of the bottom line here is that it's all about relationships, connecting, knowing students, knowing classes, and then pivoting when necessary. The other thing that is of the utmost importance that you remember, this is all about the process. The process doesn't just happen overnight. You don't just build relationships with kids overnight. However, if you are consistent and you stick to it and you say what you mean, and then you mean what you say.
Ooh, real original.
Right? Not like I coined that phrase, but the idea is that over time, things do get better. The problem is that next year, all the same behaviors typically show up again, but you will be more prepared. The more you prepare this year, the more you try stuff this year, the more you stick to it this year, next year, you'll see that there's a drastic change in how you feel, how you think, what goes on. So when that child fell over the chair today in class, they didn't lose my cool. It just happened. When kids laugh or they carry on a little bit too much, it's all right. They're kids. Let them laugh for a little bit because there's no other times in class or in school that you are laughing. So just let it ring out for a moment and let the moment be what it is. So that's it. If you have any questions, you can hit me up Sunday nights, 1 p.m. on our YouTube channel or on Facebook. You can show up and ask any question that you would like. You can also follow us on social media. And look, if you know a teacher that's going through it this year and you think that this video might help them out, please consider sharing it with them so that they can hopefully have a better year and get some words of encouragement. That's it, gang. I'll see you next time. Peace.